Hey everyone, my name is Isaac Arthur and I'm a co-founder here at Kodo Design in Indianapolis, Indiana, and I want to welcome you back to our series where we are diving into some of the topics, chapters, and theory from our new book, Craft Beer Rebranded. Head over to craftbeerrebranded.com to buy your 2-book bundle today. Learn how to rebrand your brewery. That's a good commercial right there. Cut it. In our last video, we had discussed which type of design firm is the best fit for your project. And today, I'd like to discuss vetting a firm, hiring them, and getting your rebrand kicked off. Let's fast forward a bit here and say that you've built a short list of firms you think would be a good fit. How do you go about vetting and hiring one? As you can imagine, every design firm will have a different onboarding process, but as a guideline, they generally fall along these lines. You, dear brewery viewer, you start out by reaching out and asking if they are taking on new clients. That's step one. Step two, they respond, hopefully promptly, and they set up a meeting to learn more about your project. Subjects discussed during this call can range from your brewery's history, your project goals, budget, timeline, deliverables, and IEP, intellectual property. Quick note, this initial meeting can be likened to a first date. If I can give you some advice from a design firm here, be wary of someone who's more concerned with whipping out their portfolio and talking about themselves and their fancy agency than they are with listening to you and what you have to say. A group that asks a lot of questions and actively listens to you could be a good partner. So at this point, I think we're on step 3. At this point, if you and your design firm determine this is a good fit, the firm will generally build a proposal. And the purpose of a proposal is to it is to capture the conversation and scope you've discussed and clarify expectations on both parties. The proposal should clearly outline the firm's process for guiding you through your rebrand and specific deliverables you're going to receive. It will include a rough timeline. Generally, you don't build a timeline until you are at the contract stage. It's definitely going to include a fee breakdown and various notes, so like on travel itinerary, intellectual property rights, and so forth. And during the proposal phase, there can be as much back and forth as needed to make sure that the scope covers everything you need and want. But remember, there are some items that maybe you want to tackle them now, but you can't quite afford them. You can always tackle these down the line. And an honest firm should help you understand the best approach there. So once the scope is good to go, a design firm will send over a contract send over a contract for you to sign. Damn, I forgot how contracts work. They'll send over a contract for you to sign along with a deposit invoice. Those typically range anywhere from 25 to 50% of the total contract. Again, different firms do it differently. And a project kickoff plan, and then you are off. I blazed through that to give you a quick overview. If we can back up to the initial conversation with a firm, here are a few things that I want you to consider when you're feeling them out. The first is that the brewery, you should not be shopping for style. So it is not uncommon for a firm to develop a familiar visual style over time. This means that any coffee shop or craft brewery or tech startup or laundromat will all look similar. I'll spare you the soapbox rant about how this means they're not actually effective designers. I think I touched on that in a previous video. But I will instead tell you that you should not be shopping for a branding partner based solely on their overarching style. Why? Why do I think that? Well, it actually isn't my boring and somehow controversial opinion that project context should drive positioning and aesthetics. No, of course not. That's crazy. No, it's because if you hire a firm that you dig, because you dig their specific illustration style or whatever consistent visual thing it is they do that you like, this means that you have already made up your mind as to what you want your brewery to look like. And this means that you have already solved your problems. And don't take this the wrong way, but you might not be correct in your assumptions. Your brand voice, your visual style, these things should be driven by your brand strategy process and positioning goals more than your personal preferences. Now, this isn't to say that you shouldn't like the work that a firm has created for other breweries and businesses. Obviously, you should like it. That's probably why you're reaching out to them in the first place. But I don't want you to approach someone with a standard visual look and try to buy that rebrand off the rack, so to speak. You should be looking for a range in their portfolio. Have they made something that looks old or high-tech or super premium or whatever? Can they handle heavy illustration work? How do they build their clients' identity systems? Have they successfully handled other brewery rebrands? That's a good question to ask. You want someone who's going to approach your project with a fresh set of eyes, because there is no one-size-fits-all solution for brewery branding. What you don't want is someone to come in who and just apply the same look, off the rack that they've sold to 6 other brewery clients at this point. Okay, I'll step off the soapbox for a minute. So after this, you should ask about their process. So be wary of patented phrases and flashy process names. I want you to dig deeper into how this firm frames project goals, how they intend to involve you in the process, and how they manage revision requests, market research, and intellectual property. That's a big one to ask about. You should clearly understand every single step of the process, and they should be able to clearly articulate that path. Yeah, that's enough there. Let's now talk about expertise. So full disclosure, my firm, Kodo Design, we specialize in brewery branding, so I'll try not to make this a commercial, but in an industry as crowded as American craft beer, I will say that expertise in a partner, whether it's a branding firm, tap room, POS system, merch company, business consultant, or even the canning line manufacturer you're considering, finding an expert in that space is important. You know, you want the best. And so you can hire a group with little to no beer branding experience, and you may even be able to contract them at a lower rate because they want to give their team a cool project to work on. But we've seen this happen many times, and in an industry like this, or in any industry with its own specific, intricacies and weird things going on, that knowledge gap can show through in all the work they do for you. And even more so, let's say when you are rebranding, you're in a tight timeline and you're wrestling with TTB and packaging production issues, getting all this stuff to come together at the same time for a launch. You want to do yourself a favor and hire an expert. Okay, let's talk now about liking the group that you hire. So a rebrand, this one might seem weird, but I think it's important. A rebrand can take anywhere from 6 months to a year or more. And while you don't need to like your design team enough to invite them to your birthday party, you should be able to envision yourself having a fun working relationship with them. If they rub you the wrong way in your first meeting, imagine what it's going to be like meeting with them 10 more times over the next year. Imagine some asshole designer showing up to a meeting in a vest. It's not doable. It's not good. You don't want that. And if you wear a vest, you should not do that. Anyway, it's also important to realize that any design firm that you are talking to is also vetting you. When Kodo, when we talk to new business, we are always asking ourselves, is this a viable project as well? They're looking for signs, we are looking for signs that your business is not only viable, but that you'll be fun to work with also. And so for what it's worth, just kind of a quick pause to talk about us. Kodo only works with people that we like. And I know that's not like the best business practice, but as a core rule, it has very rarely steered us wrong in 11 now years of business. So yeah, you want to make sure that you like the people you hire. I think that's important. Anyway, let's wrap this up by talking about money and budgeting. That's probably the reason you clicked on this video. Whenever we speak at a conference, people will always ask us, how much does it cost to rebrand? What does a logo cost? And so check it out. You can close this boring, rambling video right now. You can open a new tab and you can grab a logo. You can buy a logo for a few $100 right now. If you want to ball out of control, you can spend $1 million like Pepsi did in his 2008 rebrand. So I say that to say that I'd love to give you a solid number to put in your budget. It's going to be different with each project, every market, every agency you talk to. You can talk to 2 agencies in the same town, you're going to get different pricing. Making this more complicated, if you ask 3 different agencies, you're going to get 3 different pricing. You're going to get 3 different price structures probably. This is sounding an awful lot like a cop-out, so I will give you a solid figure. A common number, a figure that we've seen in business books, take that for what it's worth, it recommends allocating anywhere between 5 to 15% of your annual revenue for your brewery's rebrand. So if your annual rev is $1 million, you should probably budget for having between $50,000 and $150,000 to work with. These figures are likely calculated based on a broader annual budget than by factoring the return that you can get with compelling branding. But anecdotally, from my experience running Kodo, we do find this to be a pretty accurate range for planning purposes in our work with brewery rebrands. So that's it for today. In our next video, we're going to be discussing your role in the design process, what you should expect, how to ensure success, and how to be a great client for your design firm during your rebrand. Head over to craftbeerrebranded.com. Again, buy your book bundle, check that out, and we will be back with another video soon. Cheers.